On today's primetime local news, the men's shelter are looking for donations to help those without shelter in this freezing cold.
This time of the year is it's a really dangerous time to be outside.
And farmers looking into testing the soil during the winter to help them get ready for the spring seeding.
As the microbial activity in your soil decreases, there's less chance for variation going into spring seeding.
And creating jobs for those with disabilities, how the Rotary Club is helping through an employment partnership.
Over 80% of individuals with disabilities are unemployed or underemployed.
Plus, a deep freeze warning in the border city, what you need to do to keep your car running.
Prime time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
With the winter weather settling in, the Lloydminster Social Action Coalition Society is needing more monetary donations to help the homeless stay warm. The drop-in center provides people without shelter a warm space to stay in and have warm meals. With the current cold weather, clothing donations are always welcome and needed.
In collaboration with the men's shelter here at the drop-in center, we always look for warm clothing such as jackets and or sweaters and toques, mitts, warm socks. They're all really essential at this time of the season.
The local nonprofit organization hopes to gain more volunteers and spread awareness to others in need. The drop-in center is one of the only locations open for warmth during this time of year, and it plans to stay open on weekends in the future.
This time of the year is it's a really dangerous time to be outside, and we have a lot of the people that access the drop-in here, they're sleeping outside and spending most of the days outside, especially on the weekends, as there's no space technically for them. So
the drop-in center is open from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. throughout Monday through Friday. If you're planning on driving in the cold weather this week, it's important to make sure your car's running safely. If your battery is 3 to 5 years old, you should get your battery tested to make sure it's performing well.
One of the main things right now would be making sure your battery's in proper running order, I guess. Keeping it well maintained and battery post clean is a very important thing at this time of year. And proper oil changes and making sure your tire pressures are all where they're supposed to be, especially nowadays with all the tire sensors.
And other tips to keep your car running safely in the frigid temperature includes making sure your gas tank is at least half full. Consider using Gasline antifreeze and gearing snow and ice off your vehicles to improve visibility. Drivers should also plug in their vehicle for at least 3 hours when it's minus 15 or below.
Definitely a good idea to plug it in for, even if you got it in for 3-4 hours is a good time frame. If you got some timers on your cords is a good thing. Warming up your coolant inside the engine block and just makes things a little easier to move and start.
It's also recommended to drive with an emergency kit that includes things like a blanket and warm clothing. Earlier today at Rolling Greens, the Rotary Club held their weekly meeting where they focused on the employment partnership that has been a staple in the Rotary since the early 2000s. The partnership focuses on the employment of those with developmental disabilities and making sure they have a fair chance in finding meaningful jobs.
It's just so important because there's over 80% of individuals with disabilities are unemployed or underemployed, and so few opportunities for that. So it's just so amazing to see Rotarians in the community engaged to create opportunities that wouldn't otherwise exist.
Cook says it's great to see the amount of support the border city has put into this partnership and how much everyone works to make the community a place for everyone.
It definitely creates an inclusive community that everyone is welcome. Everyone has an opportunity, and it's not based on just a certain criteria, but because you deserve to be a part of this community and we value. And so, being able to work with employers to create meaningful and sustainable employment for the employer and for the employees.
For more information regarding the employment partnership, you can contact the Rotary Club. And while soil may not be the first thing on producers' minds right now, winter testing can help them get an idea of what it is. Their soil is headed into seeding season. Our Eric Bay has more.
Because of the colder temperatures, winter soil testing gives farmers a more accurate idea of what is in their soil while giving them time to plan compared to fall testing.
As the microbial activity in your soil decreases, there's less chance for variation going into spring seeding. So your soil test does become more accurate. But in saying that, you also have to handle your soil samples properly and not let them warm up to get that microbial activity going again. So storage and shipping of soil samples is extremely important as well.
The soil makeup that is uncovered in winter testing should hold into the spring, letting producers know what they need for fertilizer before seeding.
So the soil becomes more stable and you have less release of nutrients out of the soil, so it's consistent going into spring. Spring is still the best time to sample, but with time and growers wanting to buy fertilizer and purchase fertilizer.
Getting accurate readings allow farmers to put their crops in the best position to succeed in what can be an unpredictable growing season on the prairies.
4 major things we're looking for is NPKs, which are 4 of your major macronutrients in your soil. We're also looking at things like EC, pH, to see how saline the soil is, how available nutrients are in the soil, as well as we look at CEC, which tells you what type of soil you have.
The weather during seeding season is expected to fluctuate between warm and cold, which could delay farmers in the fields. Eric Bay, Primetime Local News.
In this week's retrospect, our Abby St. John takes us back to 2005 to look at 2 stories. The first one, a youth employment program in Bonnyville, and the second, how the border city was stuck in a similar cold snap we're seeing today.
Back in 2005, young adults learned skills they can use when they enter the workforce through an employment program in Bonnyville.
The Youth Employment Strategy, or YES program, for students at the Tonder Training Center in Bonnyville is an important step towards a positive future.
I enjoy it. It's a new road, for me. I've come a long way, and as a young mother, I'm trying to search for employment and the ability to be able to keep a career.
I'm interested in gaining future trades and stuff that could be positive, a positive outlook on how this program will be, and basically try and get into school too after this.
As you can see, the program is funded by HRSDC.
Tara Ravega is a coordinator of the program. Courses for people aged 18 to 30. It's a 38-week program, 14 weeks in class, 24 weeks in job employment. The focus is to prepare students for the workforce.
Similar to the weather we're experiencing now, back in 2005, the cold weather affected a border city service.
Reagan Kakula's job has him spending most of his days outside. And with the recent cold snap accompanied by a strong wind chill, it's making work a bit more difficult.
Bundled up and boots and stuff on, weight and stuff. After about 200 boxes, it starts to really weigh you down.
And the cold temperatures are affecting other elements of work as well.
The equipment runs slower. The hydraulics don't work the same as they do when it's warm out, so you got to take your time and go slow, and if things freeze up totally, then we shut her down.
For this week's retrospect, I'm Abby St. John.
Retrospect this week is brought to you by Webb's Ford. Worth your while to drive the extra mile. Webb's Ford in Vermilion.
Bundle up, it's going to be a cold one. Here's our Abby St. John with a look at this extremely cold weather.
Thanks, Judy, and you are absolutely right. The entire province of Alberta is under an extreme cold warning. and the majority of the province of the Saskatchewan province is also under that warning. A lot of BC is as well. So definitely make sure you're bundled up, your cars are plugged in, and you are staying out of the weather out of the cold as much as possible. Minus 27 here right now, feeling closer to minus 37 with that wind chill as winds coming in from the northwest at 12 kilometers per hour. Across Alberta, minus 27 also out in Cold Lake at Edmonton and Rocky Mountain House, minus 28 in Red Deer, minus 29 in Athabasca, Edson, and Jasper, and minus 30 out in Whitecourt. And on the Saskatchewan side, minus 26 in Melfort, minus 25 in Meadow Lake, Prince Albert, Saskatoon, and in North Battleford. Overnight in North Battleford, they will drop to minus 35 overnight, and that wind will be at 11 kilometers per hour coming in from the west-northwest, which will remain that way tomorrow with a daytime high of minus 31. So definitely make sure you are bundled up. North Battleford is under that extreme cold warning. Cold Lake overnight will drop to minus 34, and that wind will stay steady at 9 kilometers per hour coming in from the northwest. And then tomorrow will be a daytime high of minus 29, and that wind will be at 11 kilometers per hour coming in from the west-northwest, and there's also a chance that you could Cold Lake could experience some snowfall with a mix of sun and cloud. Here in Lloydminster, overnight will drop to minus 37, and that wind will be at 11 kilometers per hour coming from the west-northwest, which will remain that way tomorrow with a daytime high of minus 32. However, with that wind chill, it'll feel closer to minus 44, and then a low of minus 37. On Wednesday, it will be a high of minus 31, which will feel closer to minus 43, and a low of minus 38. On Thursday, it will be a high of minus 28 and a low of minus 38. However, with that wind chill, it'll feel closer to minus 36. That's a look at your 3-day forecast. We'll have more news coming up after the break.
Welcome back. A Saskatoon judge has granted a farm equipment manufacturer in the province financial protection from its creditors. According to court documents, Morris Industries applied for protection under the company's Creditors Arrangement Act while it undertakes a restructuring plan. Slumming sales due to trade wars and poor weather are among the factors cited for the request. Morris has a head office in Saskatoon with plants in Yorkton, and Minnedosa, Manitoba. The Alberta government is holding engagement sessions and launching an online survey to gather feedback about the future of agriculture research in the province. Agriculture Minister Devin Dreeshen says the government wants to know what farmers consider the research priorities are. He says it's an opportunity to transform how Alberta does research and attract investment from the private sector. The online survey is open until January 31st. And now here are your agriculture prices for today.
We're a part of less than 5% of Canadian auto body shops and Lloydminster's only locations with certified collision care recognition at City Centre Auto Body.
The Rustlers are keeping the fire alive from last semester. Both the men's and women's volleyball teams went undefeated this past weekend after playing against Concordia Thunder. The men's Rustlers added 2 wins to their season on the weekend. Friday's game went 5 close sets with Lakeland coming out on top, winning 3 out of 2. At home on Saturday, Lakeland swept the Thunder 3-0, giving them some momentum heading into next weekend where they will be playing Keano College. The women's Rustlers went 3-1 with the Thunder in their first game on Friday. Their one-loss set finished tight at 30-28, coming close to a full sweep. Janea Varga had a particularly strong weekend with 11 kills on Friday and 16 kills on Saturday. The result, an overall successful weekend for the Lakeland. And now a look at your weather with our Abby St. John.
Thanks, Judy. It's been a bitterly cold day, and it will continue on the throughout this week. We are under that extreme cold warning, the entire province of Alberta, the majority of Saskatchewan, and even the majority of BC under that extreme cold warning, so definitely be cautious about that. No large signs of snowfall here in Lloydminster for the next couple of days. However, down in the North Battlefords area, Maidstone, Macklin area had been experiencing some snowfall, and up in Cold Lake as well, experiencing that. Minus 27 here in Lloydminster, as well as in St. Walburg, minus 28 in Macklin and Green Lake and Isle of Cross, minus 26 in Pearceland, minus 25 in North Battleford and in Meadow Lake, and minus 26 in Maidstone. On the Alberta side, minus 27 in Cold Lake, Vegreville, and Provost and Edmonton, minus 29 in Wainwright and Marwayne, minus 28 in Vermilion, St. Paul, Bonnyville, and in Lac La Biche. And tomorrow, minus 32 here in Lloydminster, as well as in Marwayne, Vermilion, Wainwright, Vegreville, and St. Paul. Minus 31 in Provost and Edmonton. Minus 29 in Lac La Biche and in Cold Lake. And minus 30 in Bonnyville. And on the Saskatchewan side, minus 25 up in Isle of Cross. Minus 27 in Green Lake. Minus 28 in Pearceland and Meadow Lake, minus 31 in St. Walburg, Maidstone, North Battleford, and minus 30 out in Macklin. And overnight across the region, fairly cold temperatures. Meadow Lake, Pearceland sitting at minus 31 overnight, minus 29 in Isle of Cross, minus 35 in Bonnyville and Unity, minus 36 in Paradise Hill and Provost, minus 37 in Murnum and Wainwright for your overnight temperatures. And then your school day forecast for tomorrow for here in Lloydminster, 8 a.m. it'll be minus 37. And then we get a little bit of sun coming out by the time recess rolls around. However, the sun will not match the temperature, as it will be minus 35 and then minus 33 by the time lunch rolls around. And then by the time school's out, it will remain around minus 33, minus 32, but the clouds will be out covering a little bit of that sun. And then a low of minus 37. And then on Wednesday, it will be a high of minus 31 and a low of minus 38. A low of minus 38 also on Thursday with a high of minus 28. And then on Friday, there's a 56% chance of snow with a high of minus 25 and a low of minus 29. To start your weekend off on Saturday, it'll be a high of minus 26 and a low of minus 34. On Sunday, it'll be a high of minus 22 and a low of minus 29. And then things seem to be warming up on Monday with a high of minus 14 and a low of minus 25. That's a look at your 7-day forecast. We'll have more news in the question of the day coming up after the break.
That time again for the question of the day, and of course the 92nd Academy Awards nominations were announced, with Joker receiving 11 nods and others as well, but some were snubbed. And the question was, what are your thoughts on this year's choices? I was quite impressed with who they chose and stuff like that, but I was kind of surprised that a lot of Lupinda didn't get it, J-Lo didn't get it, Eddie Murphy, and all of them, you know, weren't nominated at all.
Yeah, just going back, Lupinda, I watched Us, very unsettling movie. I had my eyes covered for the majority of it, but her acting was phenomenal. It was gut-wrenchingly creepy. She got her voice all raspy and so hoarse, and she played two different characters, one evil, one terrified out of her mind trying to protect her family. And so I'm shocked that she wasn't nominated for an accolade.
It's interesting, even J-Lo. I mean, everybody talked about her as well too, but Lupinda, to me, is a phenomenal actress. And of course, some of the winners, you know, Joker had 11 nods, right? Once Upon a Time with Brad Pitt, that had 10. The Irishman with Anthony Hopkins, that had another 10. Of course, 1917 is the one that people are talking about, and that is going to hopefully win something because it's about the war and stuff, and the camera just follows throughout the whole time. It's an amazing film. So I'm glad that is in there, but I'm kind of sad for the other guys.
Yeah, and I'm also kind of upset that all the directors that were nominated are all males when there was amazing female directors this year, you know, just Little Women.
Huge.
It was a great movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was beautifully shot, beautifully just put together.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of, and I did see it on social media, people upset that not even at least one female director wasn't nominated when there were so many that did phenomenal work.
Wow, we could talk about this all night long, you know that, but right now we're going to throw to pets. Thanks for sending your pets for a chance to win a gift card from the Pet Pad. Take a look at these cute ones.
We want to see your pets. Send photos of your pet and their name to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to have them featured on Pet of the Day. Your name will be entered into a weekly draw for a gift certificate from the Pet Pad.
I'm pleased to be joined on Primetime Local News tonight by Stephanie Dobson and Ryan Armstrong. Thank you guys for coming back.
Thank you.
Is such
Thanks
a
for having us.
popular feature. You're welcome. This is such a popular feature in the city. We've had people calling in about the free legal clinic. And I think, first of all, it's because a lot of people don't know how to approach even going to get a lawyer if they need it for certain things. So the next one you have is coming up the 16th of January. Stephanie, tell me exactly what people can do at these clinics.
So at the free legal clinics, which is the one that's coming up next week, people can ask one-on-one advice by a lawyer. So they book it, it's all by appointment only.
Okay.
So they would call in to the number for the legal clinic and they would book their appointment as long as they meet the financial guidelines.
Okay. And Ryan, what's an advantage to being able to do this for people especially if they have no knowledge of how the legal system works?
Well, certainly the biggest need that we see in the community continually through the clinics is for family law, but it's open to not just family law, but civil matters, criminal matters, household tenancy matters, those types of things. There's certainly a need in the community for providing that type of legal advice to provide a gap between what might otherwise be funded through government sources and what people could afford.
So why do you guys do this, Stephanie? I know we've talked about this before, but what's the motivation behind actually offering this to members of the public?
There's free community legal clinics in many communities in Alberta, and knowing this and knowing that Lloydminster was a gap community, it didn't have a free legal clinic, we wanted to make sure that we could provide that to the community just like all other communities.
So how do people sign up for this one on the 16th?
Okay. So there's a phone number you can call. A local Lloydminster number is 587-789-0727 to sign up for an appointment. That's open to Alberta and Saskatchewan residents and related issues.
Okay, and why is it important that they call to book this and book ahead? What are some of the qualifications that they need to go over?
So when you book the appointment, they will go over some of the income-related limitations. So it's open to lower income people who aren't able to otherwise afford the private legal services, but also there's no walk-in appointments available, so everyone has to book ahead and the lawyers have to be sure that there's no conflicts with respect to those particular people so that there's an appropriate match.
Okay. And now, Ryan, I'll ask you about this, the public information session coming up in February. How do those work, and what is the February subject?
So those sessions are, there's no booking required, you just need to show up and attend, and it's a general information seminar. It's one lawyer, one or two lawyers presenting on a particular topic. In February, it's about common law relationships.
Okay.
There's been actually a fairly big change in the law in Alberta as of January 1, so it'll be somewhat of a new topic perhaps to the presenter as much as the people attending. But certainly it runs at the same time, at the same location, from 5 to 7, and it's just a general talking on the subject, although there are Q&A sort of at the end.
Okay, and for that, because it is obviously January is when a lot of changes do happen, like you mentioned, is it kind of like a general summary of all things related to common law, like would there be tax type information and that sort of thing, or is it more about how you deal with separation, or is it kind of a little bit of everything?
It's kind of a bit of everything. It probably doesn't delve much into tax, although it can, I suppose. Probably focusing more on custody access, support. Property is certainly the big one where there can be some fundamental differences in how property gets divided if you're married versus if you're common law.
Right, okay. Have you had quite a good response to these in the past?
Yeah, our clinics have been running for about 3 or 4 years now. We've had varying intervals of them, but now we're happy that we've got them on a monthly basis. So on the third Thursday of every month, we have the alternating between the legal advice and the legal information center seminars, and we've had 2019 has been our record year as far as the numbers, and we're pleased that we've got lots of response from local lawyers who are willing to volunteer their time for the summary legal advice clinics, up to 3 lawyers per evening, with up to 3 to 4 appointments per lawyer. So we've got lots and lots of availability. We're very, very quickly booking up, so please call in. The audience should please call in to book their appointment as soon as possible. To make sure that they can get in for the January appointments. If not, the next one is going to be on March 19th. So like I said, the third Thursday of every month.
Okay, and if something happens and they call and they can't get into the January one, do you guys then push them to the next one if you can, or do they have to wait to call in for that one?
No, people can book in for whichever one. We've got them booked all the way through all of 2020, so technically people tend to want to get into the soonest one available, but technically people can book in for whichever one that they that works for their availability.
Okay, great. And just before we go here one more time, if anybody wants to book the appointment, what's that phone number?
The local Lloydminster phone number is area code 587-789-0727.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, and we'll make sure to put the information up on our social media and website as well for people who want the information. And thank you guys once again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evan Kenny is off enjoying a much warmer climate than the one we are currently in the middle of. So I'll fill in on this chair, and Abby St. John filling in on the other chair for a little sports talk tonight. A big weekend for hockey fans throughout the province. Battle of Alberta on Saturday, and the Flames coming out on top, and it was like a classic Battle of Alberta.
Yeah, I think when you hear Battle of Alberta, you're expecting a good game, and you know, I didn't catch the game, but I watched the highlights, and it was definitely a back and forth. I think, you know, you had the early Flames goal in the first, and then from there was just a back and forth between the Oilers and the Flames, and it turned out to be a really good game from what it looked like.
Yeah, and also you have the physical stuff with Zach Kassian and Matthew Tkachuk. Yeah. Obviously in the 80s, that was a big part of that rivalry as well. So good to see the Battle of Alberta back. I know I'm kind of a fan of those two teams being good, so good to see it back again. There weren't fireworks that matched up to, though, what happened over the weekend with NFL football. That one game sample is really something, and we might as well start with the upset with Baltimore and Tennessee.
Yes, everyone was, you know, Ravens all season Super Bowl contending teams. I believed it too. I thought Lamar Jackson could definitely take Baltimore to the Super Bowl. However, then they met the Titans, who had just come off a huge win against the New England Patriots, dethroning Tom Brady, and then coming to Baltimore and really showing them that they're an underdog team. And I think they really proved that. You have, you know, explosive run game with Derrick Henry, which definitely did help. You know, the Ravens didn't see their end zone until the last quarter. And so they really did. They played offensively and defensively pretty perfectly. They had a few upsets and stuff, but from the most of it, they couldn't stop Derrick Henry's run. They managed to, you know, get a few good hits on them, and they had a few good plays, but all in all, the Titans really came to play offensively and defensively, which is what secured their win for them. They had a little trick play in the third quarter. Derrick Henry caught the snap with Tannehill on the sidelines, and then threw kind of like a jump pass into the end zone, which
it was almost like a free throw in basketball.
Yeah, all I heard was the announcer saying Tannehill's on the sideline, and I looked up, and Derrick Henry catches the snap and then throws into the end zone for their TD, which I thought was a pretty perfect play. I thought it was pretty sneaky, and it definitely did work out accordingly, which was good.
Yeah, and if they can continue that run, this could be one of those all-time Super Bowl runs, certainly. But there are some other interesting teams in play for that Super Bowl, obviously. I know as a Seahawks fan, it was a tough result for you with the team losing to Green Bay. They did have a bit of a late run that made me think there was a shot in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, they started to get that momentum back, but unfortunately they weren't able to seal it. Stopped at to get the first down.
Yeah.
They didn't call it as first down. A lot of people saying that, you know, they weren't actually short. They did get the first down, but that happens. Well, what made that game pretty special was during the halftime, Jimmy Johnson, he led the Cowboys to 2 Super Bowls. He's the first and one of 3 coaches to win both a major college championship and a Super Bowl. He was inducted into the 2020 class Pro Football Hall of Fame. It was a very emotional scene to watch because he was announced in front of everyone else and lots of tears were shed. I thought that was a pretty spectacular moment.
Yeah, people, if you get a chance and you haven't seen it, go online. It's a really cool video.
And I think the best game this weekend was definitely the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs were down 24-0 in the first quarter. They were dropping passes. They had a fumble. It was just, they weren't a good team. They weren't a Super Bowl team. And then what happened? A kick return landed them on the 42-yard line. Explosive run. I think that's what kicked them into high gear because they went on to getting 4 touchdowns in the second quarter alone. And the Texans weren't able to score again until the end of the third quarter, finishing the game 51-31 to send the Chiefs to the next round. To face the Titans. I thought that was an amazing game, and that's definitely a playoff game, and I was blown away by it.
And what we love to see, obviously, with the new NFL with so many great quarterbacks. First team to come from behind 24 points and then lead at the half in NFL history. 10 seconds really quickly. Thoughts on San Fran dominating Minnesota?
I mean, I kind of saw it coming. I was hoping the other way around, obviously. But, you know, they're a great team, and they really have shown that they're a great team. And so I predict a Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl. That is my prediction.
I definitely think it'll still be an interesting matchup, even if some of our favorite teams aren't in that Super Bowl.